o'clock in beautiful Lee, New Hampshire. Welcome, everybody. As chairman of the select board, well, first I'll call the meeting to order, I guess. As chairman of the select board, due to the COVID-19 coronavirus crisis and in accordance with Governor Sununu's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04, this board is meeting electronically utilizing the Zoom platform. We previously gave notice to the public of how to access this meeting using Zoom, and instructions are provided on the Town of Lee's website at lee.nh.org. If anyone has a problem with access, please call 603-659-5414, extension 312. Please note that all votes that are taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. We'll start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance when each member states their presence. Also, please state whether there is anyone in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. Selectman Bugby.
I'm hearing there's nobody else around.
Select person Casper.
Here and alone.
Selectman Brown, here and alone. We can move to public comment. Public is invited to view and or listen to the meetings. Input during this meeting is at the discretion of the chairman. If you experience problems with access during the meeting, please contact 603-659-5414, extension 312. Public comment is intended to allow members of the public to speak to the select board on subjects that are not included on the agenda. Please use the raise hand feature and wait to be recognized and unmuted. You will have 3 minutes to speak, and the 3 minutes is a cap. That's it. We have a very, very busy agenda tonight, and 3 minutes will be the limit. If you are using a telephone to connect to the meeting, please press *9, raise your hand, and wait to be recognized. Press *6 to unmute yourself. We'll start the meeting. Tom Dronsfield, Police Chief.
Good evening. Thanks for indulging me a second time on this topic. I wanted to come before the board again because I feel that I didn't properly explain myself and what we were looking for in the importance of allowing the department heads to be able to do this. And I know in speaking with the department heads, we were all of the same feeling when it comes to this matter. We don't often get opportunities like this to show our good employees how much we appreciate their hard work throughout the year. And my concern is the town of Lee, and this isn't a slam, but the town of Lee traditionally hasn't been a high paying job. A lot of people aren't here for the salary, but that makes retention difficult. And one of the things that I've been tasked with every year since I've become the chief is to retain people. And I've managed to retain the same group longer in the history of this department, but I'm running out of options. I've done it through offering training, obtaining grants to provide the best equipment, allowing uniform changes that made the officers happy, my own personal expense, covering holidays for the officers who have their own families. I'm running out of options. I know this isn't being called a bonus, but I know how my people are going to look at it. So I'm coming back to the board again. It's really important. Each year we go and we're 0.5% behind the cost of living, or in this case, no cost of living raise. It puts us further and further behind the 8 ball and trying to compete with the departments that we're losing people to traditionally. That's why it's so important for me and the other department heads for us to be able to have this request granted and allow us to, again, recognize our people who are working at 110%. If somebody's not working at 110% and they don't get the full amount, then that sends a message that, yes, it is important and you will be recognized for your hard work. That's it.
That's it. I want to make a motion. I want to move to grant the Town of Lee department heads authority to allocate the FY22 bonus money to their individual employees as they see fit. Can I get a second?
I'll second that motion.
Roll call vote. Selectman Casper, select person
Discussion.
Casper.
Mr. Chairman, discussion.
Okay, Mr. Bugby, you're on.
I'll say the same thing to the chief. It's across the board and that's what it is. I understand what you're trying to do, but it's very little money. It's not going to make that much difference. And our allocation was so that everybody gets something. I understand where you're coming from, but I don't agree. I'm sorry.
Okay, Selectman Brown, yes. That's 2 yes, 1 no, motion carries.
Did you get a vote from Chair, Ms. Casper?
Yes,
Mrs.
I did.
Casper?
Yeah, I think we might want to do the roll call again.
Yeah, I think you
Roll
should.
call vote, roll
Yeah.
call vote, select person Casper,
Yes.
select person, Selectman Bugby.
You can call me a person. Thank you, Mr. Brown. No, no.
Okay, Selectman Brown, yes, motion passes. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
So we move down to item 4. Almost all of which has to do with Town Hall Renovation Committee. Scott, do you want to talk to this? You want me to just go through it?
Well, I assume, Mr. Brown, that you listened to the meeting that we had last week?
I did. I listened to it 3 times.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Good.
great.
Needed
Excellent.
it. Needed to listen to it 3 times.
Oh, okay.
It's when you have 15 people on a video talking, it's very interesting to see what you think you said versus what came out, what came out after all 15 chimed in. So, yes.
So I think one of the things in terms of, and I'm gonna do a summary of this. I think we should kind of decide what we're going to move forward with, when we're going to move forward with it. And also we need to do an updated charge for the THRC. So I think that's what we need to cover. One of the things that was mentioned is you weren't there at the last meeting, so we thought that you should be included in that discussion. So I think those are the things we need to cover, and hopefully we can decide some of that tonight so we can kind of move this forward a little bit. But that is kind of the synopsis of terms of what we're looking for tonight.
Okay, I agree. I've kind of assumed that's exactly what was on the list of things to do. Certainly, if you just start with looking at the THRC proposed plan. Now, let me back up just for a second. Because I got to tell you, in the past meetings, I got somewhat confused over the objectives, because when I read the charge of the Town Hall Renovation Committee, it's pretty straightforward. The Town Hall Renovation Committee was formed to address the renovation and modernization of the Town Hall building. And so obviously, as things went on, you went beyond that for sure in the work of things to do and looking at the future and so on. And I know that your people work very hard. I know that. But I do have some issues that I want to present, because I feel as though we're holding up some other projects in doing this, not the least of which is the library. The library, in my mind, the library is probably, I think, the keystone building for this whole project. There is no other building that provides the amount of services, the variety of services to the variety of the population as the library does. Whether it's just plain books, whether it's audio books, whether it's access to computers, whether it's help in research, you just can't go anywhere else to get it. For 10 years now or better, the library has been trying to improve its facility. And they're to the point where they've gotten a design. And I really would like to see us put the emphasis on step one being, let's get the library done. Let's get the decision for the library done, and let's let them build the library addition and work our way through that. At the same time, depending on how we come out of this with other things to do, you can start those other projects. There's nothing, I mean, allowing the library to go forth and multiply doesn't hurt a thing as far as saying, okay, what's the next step? What's the next step for the town hall? Which, by the way, I went down and looked at day before yesterday and walked around. And the town hall renovation is really a town hall deprivation right now. There's boards that are coming loose. All the paint is peeling, et cetera, et cetera. So it's kind of like we've just turned our back on it, and it's coming to pieces. So what I'd like to do is to, with you guys, I'd like to press forward on the library, at least dress up the town hall to where the boards aren't falling off, et cetera, and then start seeing a plan put together on what we do next. I'll support it 100%. I'll guarantee you. I'm with you. I mean, honestly, I'm truly with you. There's some things we have differences on, but I really want to get this done. End of message.
Would it be okay to take the plan down and see each other? Thank you. I agree with a lot of what you said, and I 100% want to get going in the library. I think the concern I have is that, right now we have a really old septic. We have a lot of other challenges with the library. So what I want to do is just figure out what it is that needs to get done first. So we're not doing things twice. So we're not getting it all going on this old septic, and then it turns out, now we're going to put in a new septic for all the other buildings, and it would be much better if we attached it, and too bad we didn't think of that ahead of time. So I personally think taking a few months to make sure we know what has to happen, and just putting the library as the absolute first building we work on, and our priority, just making sure we have the infrastructure in place. To me, that makes sense. And I think that's where I'd want to land. I agree that we have buildings that desperately need help. I am a little concerned about, the fact that we don't have a town hall, and that we do, and we have a desperate need to have our own town hall or town office building, but that one of the reasons when I was on the town hall renovation committee that we changed what we were looking at was because I kept saying, what do we need the town hall for right now? If you can't put people back in it as an office space. And so for me, I was asking the question, what is the plan? So we know what we're trying to create in that space. So I think they all do go together. So I don't want to accept it as at that plan as it is, but I do think we need to give a new charge to the Town Hall Renovation Committee and change that charge to really identifying, laying out, and making it very clear what steps have to happen when, so that we can get those steps started moving forward and get that library done. Mr. Bugby, do you have thoughts too?
I have lots of thoughts, but I'm controlling my temper at the moment. I think the thing that we need to, I think there's two things. I wear a hat on one committee and also a hat in this committee. So I have my board hat on at the moment. The board needs to decide how we're going to proceed and what we're going to proceed with and how we're going to fund it. And I think based on the last meeting, I thought there was kind of a consensus that we need to kind of work in the the new septic system, some kind of parking lot. I don't know sure how many spaces. And make sure that all that works together with the library project in terms of water runoff and all the utilities that need to be done. I think that needs to have a holistic approach. We can't just do one and ignore the other things that need to be done. The other thing the board needs to do is make some commitment to the town hall. Mr. Brown, you said it's falling apart and they just moved out in January. So in what, 5 months, 6 months, it's, having issues. So the board needs to commit to whatever that's going to be. We can fix it up and we can probably have like meetings of 12 people. We can commit to renovating the thing and that's going to cost even more money, or we can mothball it. The THRC gave you those 3 particular options that they come up with. So the board needs to decide what they're doing and moving forward and how they're going to fund it. So that's where I am. I would love us for it to give the THRC a new charge, maybe a new name too, in terms of evaluating what those things that need to be done and hire a firm to look at all those particular things in a holistic approach in terms of the well, in terms of the septic system, in terms of the parking, in terms of the drainage, in terms of the runoff, for all those particular things. So that's where I am. So hopefully we can come together. I think we're all saying the same thing, but I think we need to vote on it and so that people can move forward and we can move these things forward.
Okay, anybody else?
John has his hand raised. Mr. Tappan.
At the May 25th meeting, I said that the architect for the library in the last meeting pointed out that the holistic approach to the site design of that area was a good idea. To be sure that I had his words correct, I went back and I watched the video and I wrote down a transcript and from the May 19th meeting, and this is what the architect had to say. Having a master plan for this tight site, knowing where the well will be and where the septic and how the utilities will all intermingle is a smart thought. You really want to do that. You want to do this once and not have to open things up and affect it and do it again and again. And then later, I feel as though looking at this holistically would be a wise choice on the town's part. My own opinion is that what we are deciding now is whether or not we are going to approach this project in a wise way or not. The holistic way is the wise way. The choice is up to the board.
I think Karen's raising her actual hand.
Thank you. I can't figure out how to raise my hand. So I reached out to District 6 in Durham, and they do not require for a library addition, they do not require anything. So in my opinion, if you wanted to construct a addition to the library, if you put it where they want it, you do not have to do many major site changes at this time. The state law does not require them to put in a new septic system. The state of New Hampshire does not require any changes to the curb cut along Route 155. Yes, you would have to do some drainage, but if they wanted to just trudge forward and put a library in, and as part of that, they did a drainage analysis and figured out, the best solution for the drainage, they would not have to do any major site changes. They could just do the addition. And then in the future, when you expanded the parking lot, you could put the septic under the parking lot, the new septic, and it might be in the future that you decide that you put 2 septics in and not 1. You might want to put a septic. The soils will determine that, and the professionals will determine that. You might want to put the septic system under the new parking lot to service the town hall once you figure out what you're going to do in the town hall, the library, and what you do with the annex, and then build a separate septic system for the new town hall, because we don't know what's going to pass. we might be doing all this work for the future that the voters don't approve. So we know that the voters have approved a new library addition. So if you put a 25 by 26 library addition on, you can leave the parking lot as it is, you can leave the septic as it is, you can leave the well as it is, and just put the addition on. Thank you.
So let's assume for a minute that the library goes ahead with their addition. Based on the plan that THRC has now, how does that have a major impact on what you want to do?
In
I mean,
terms of,
can we not accommodate the fact that they have a design, they like the design, they et cetera, et cetera. I think they've asked for engineering assistance for some questions, whatever. But what would be the second step? Let's assume we do the library addition as it's planned, as it's proposed anyway. Then from the THRC point of view, what would be the next step?
I don't think we as a group have talked about that. You can have people say their opinions, but the committee has not discussed what that particular next step of the library would be. So I personally can't answer that question. Maybe John can, but I can't.
I think the question is, then what do you want to do with the town hall? If you don't want to turn the town hall into a functional meeting space for any more than perhaps a dozen people, then you might decide that the parking lot that you have is acceptable. If you're going to turn it into a meeting space and function space, as has been talked about, then obviously the parking that you have is not acceptable. And neither is the number of toilet rooms in that building. So it seems like you might be talking about adding, as long as we don't do the meeting space and function space, then we can live within what we have there at Town Center. So if you think you can put that off for years, then maybe what's being suggested now is a wise choice. Mothball the town hall for years, and just don't do anything with it. But if you're going to make it into meeting space, you're going to make it into function space, then clearly the number of parking spaces that are there is not adequate. And if you tell DOT that we have a meeting space with the occupant load that you would have for that meeting space, I don't think they're going to like that parking lot that we have.
You're on mute, Karen.
John, absolutely. But for what I asked them today, and I will happily forward you the email, was if we just do an addition to the library, do we need to do any changes? And they said no.
Can I ask Karen a
That's
question?
not the issue.
Yeah,
Karen, can I ask you a question?
yes.
With that being said, as far as you understand in terms of what the library proposing, does that meet all of our issues in terms of zoning? The reason I'm asking this question is one of the things that we've done, I don't know, since I've been on the board is no matter what the town's doing, we need to abide by our own zoning regulations. So I don't know if you can answer that question. Maybe you need to research it, but what is your opinion?
So my opinion, for all that I know,
Yeah.
I haven't seen an engineered plan other than the plan that John drew. It does not meet our zoning.
Okay.
So they can go through as you know, the select board can vote tonight. Let's just say tonight, two select board members can say, we want the library to do the addition to meet up the back of the existing library. You don't have to go to the zoning board or the conservation commission and move forward, or you can choose to have them go through the process. It's up to this board. But how I understand they want to the current plan to attach it to the back does not meet zoning to the setback to the bog.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And in order for it to meet the zoning, they would have to trim back the expansion.
They would have to pull it forward, or they have to pull the addition forward, correct? Because I think it's 56 feet to the closest point where 75 feet is required.
Yeah,
But Karen, they couldn't go in front of the ZBA and the planning board to get those waived, right?
They could, or this select board can tell them they don't have to meet it.
Okay,
Now, back in 1995, they went through the process. The Conservation Commission didn't have any issues, and the zoning board said, we don't have any jurisdiction on this. So, and as you all know, nobody can tell the zoning board what to do. So I don't think that would happen now, but it very much could. It could.
the indications, and I'm not going to speak for the Conservation Commission, but they have some particular concerns. And I think that the big thing for me is I don't want, this is me personally, there is no way that I can defend, and the homeowner comes up and says, well, wait a minute, I have to do all these regulations, but the town doesn't. That's not fair. And my personal opinion is, if we're doing a project, we should go through the same process as everybody else. There's exemptions, there's processes to go through, and I think we need to do that. That's my personal opinion. I don't think the board has ever taken a vote in that particular respect, but I think that's appropriate. There's no way that I personally can defend that particular decision when somebody comes and talks to me like that.
So the only thing that I can say on that, I personally have no opinion whatsoever. The library is not my thing. That's their professionals. Conservation Commission has their opinion, which I totally respect. But one of the arguments that I could see is it's no further encroachment than the existing library. Right or wrong, that's also a thing that up until 2014, that was the zoning. You didn't need to get a variance if you had no further encroachment than something that was already there.
Okay.
So, but yes, the town changed that regulation in 2014.
Thank you, Karen.
You're welcome.
so
Nice.
what would be the next step that the library, okay, John, go ahead.
2 points. First, when you state that in 1995, for the 1996 edition, that the Conservation Commission approved that edition, you need to tell the rest of the story. The Conservation Commission approved an edition which was to be 40 feet from the bog. But that's not what was built. That was based on a freehand sketch that did not even remotely resemble the actual shape of the bog. And so what was built was not 40 feet from the bog, but 28 feet from the bog. Second point, yes, it's been stated that what is paid attention to is the amount of intrusion into the wetland setback. That is the distance. But that's not the important part. What makes a difference is, what is it that intrudes? If you say you could have a second intrusion which did not go further into the setback than the early intrusion, then the obvious way to put a warehouse in the setback is first you apply for some tiny building that intrudes just a corner into the setback. And once you get that, now you can put a warehouse in the setback. But what matters for infiltration on site is the amount of runoff and the area of intrusion into the setback. So when you talk only about the distance, that's a fundamental misunderstanding of what's important. It comes about naturally because it's easy to talk about a single dimension rather than an area over which the runoff is collected.
I think that there's the ability for the new addition to be part of a plan that actually makes up for some of the mistakes of the past and doing an overall better job conserving the bog. And I think that's something I would really like to be behind and support, because I think we did make a mistake in the past. It is important to rectify it. And this new addition can go where it's going. And actually, even though you're adding, you can do a better job of dealing with the runoff and take better care of the bog. So I guess for me,
Absolutely.
what I would say is I'd be happy to give a new name to the Town Hall Renovation Committee for the next 2 weeks to be the figure out what has to happen next committee, whatever name you want, and just really lay out why we can't, what is it so very specifically that we need to get done before the library can start the addition. And I just think that that would help Mr. Brown and everyone else understand if there's really things that have to get done or that are huge cost savings by doing together. I want to know what they are. I want to do them. I want to have them clearly laid out. Otherwise, it's really hard not to agree with Mr. Brown and just say, just do it and then we'll deal with it later. So that's what I would suggest for the next 2 meetings.
So do we have a new name, Katrin? The WHN committee? What happens next?
I mean, sure. I think that it's fair to say, like, we all want to know, just lay it out on the table. What are the things that have to happen? And then how do we pay for them? How do we do them? Get them done, get that library built.
Okay.
The unfortunate part about that is if you're just talking now about putting an addition on the library, right? It changes the scope of what needs to be done. If you want to talk about, because there's so many other unknowns, if you want to talk about what you're going to do to the town hall, that changes it too. So if you're just, so let's just say all we wanted to do is put an addition on the library.
Right.
That list is so short
Right.
compared to if you want to renovate the town hall for meeting space.
Right.
Because those types of things are going to make the project even bigger. So you have to figure out, what do you want to look at doing? The only thing that the voters have approved is an addition to the library, correct?
Right.
Yep.
So if that's really all you're planning for, that's a pretty simple list.
But if you go ahead and you look at that list quickly and you say, okay, let's say we were to do this with the town hall so that it's now an option, what would be those things, just so we know what they are, and what's the cost saving and what's the time saving, so that we can decide, you know, do we just, too bad, we'll waste that money and get this done, or do we say this really is a cost savings? We all, you know, we want to have the ability to renovate the town hall down the road and not, you know, and be able to deal with it.
But I don't think, so if you're going to put an addition on the library, right? The only thing you will need to do is, you know, you'll need to do the engineered drawing, you'll need to do drainage study, you'll need to go to the Conservation Commission and the zoning board. But you're not going to do anything twice because you're not redoing the parking lot for an addition on the library. You're not putting in a septic system for an addition on the library. You're not duplicating anything that I can see by just putting an addition on the library.
Yep.
If you're going to renovate the town hall for meeting space, you need to enlarge the parking lot, you need to enlarge the septic system.
Yep. So-
But you're not, if you're just putting a 25 by 26 foot addition on the library, you're not duplicating anything because you don't need to do that. You don't need to do anything.
So
You
Karen,
know what I'm saying, Scott?
yeah, Karen, you're going the same place I was going.
Okay.
I'm going to force the board to make a decision, at least I'm going to try, in terms of what we're going to do with the town hall. Are we going to mothball it? Are we going to like fix it up a little bit so 12 people can meet there? Or are we going to renovate it? So that's what I think we need to decide, because I totally agree with you, Karen. You know, if you're just doing the library, you don't need all that other stuff. If you're going to do anything more than that, you need to consider these other particular projects, and the board has to do some kind of committal so we can move forward on those particular things. So if you're going to mothball the library, mothball the town hall, totally fine, totally fine. But if you're going to do anything with it, you need to make those decisions so the THRC or the WHN or whatever we're calling ourselves now can make those determinations in terms of what has to be done. So.
Is the board taking questions or comments from the audience?
I think we should.
I think it's Katrinka has her hand raised.
Or is there more people? More people.
Okay, hi. Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to point out very briefly, that we are planning to meet with conservation. We're on the committee. The library trustees are going to be next week at their meeting. We're on the agenda. And then we do, plan to meet with zoning when that's appropriate. And we would like to move forward with engineering drawings so that we can deal with drainage and see what we need to do to mitigate and minimize the runoff. That's what we're waiting for, is to move ahead with that particular step. So, thank you.
Anybody? Who's up next?
Who's
So
up?
I just have one more thing to say. Before we do something with the town hall, does that need to go to the vote, or is there enough money without going to voters?
No, it's like more than $500,000.
So either way, we can't do anything until March, at least March, for the town hall. Right?
No, that's not true. The voters voted in 2019 to put $50,000 into the Renovating Town Hall Capital Reserve Fund, and they made the select board the agents to expend. So there's already over $50,000 with the accrued interest, which the select board is able to expend specifically for renovating town hall. In addition, Town Buildings Capital Reserve Fund also has the select board as agents to expend, and that can be used for any town building. That's the same thing that you're relying on when you say the voters have approved the addition to the library. The voters years ago approved making the Board of Selectmen agents to expend for the Lee Library Building Capital Reserve Fund. And they voted to allow up to $100,000 from the Library Capital Reserve Fund toward the renovation of the library.
So we have $50,000 for the town hall, is what you're saying, already there. We could technically say, let's make it so that you can have up to 12 people meet in the town hall for $50,000 right now. And the town has already, because that's what it said, mothball, wasn't it? 10,000 to mothball, 50,000 to renovate.
Yep.
So we have enough to just kind of inch it along. And then if we did that, then we could, it's just hard for me to put more than $500,000 into the town hall, old town hall right now, when we're spending $5,000 a month to rent an office building that we have to replace down the road anyway. To me, the priority is get the library done, build the office building that we need for our town, and then renovate the town hall. But I mean, that's just how I see it. I'm sure there's people with different opinions. I just know, I think need before want.
Does the board want to hear from Paul Gazowski? He has his hand raised.
Sure.
Go ahead, Paul.
Still muted.
Is someone on?
Paul is gonna.
Yes.
speak in a
Paul,
minute.
are you still going to speak?
Just has to unmute.
I did.
Oh. He just has to unmute.
Okay, well, maybe we can move on and he can raise his hand again.
Annie's hand is now up, so I'm guessing he's trying to get through that way.
So can we, if we just break off of this subject and talk about the CIFP?
Can we not get Annie to go through either? Let's finish up where we're at here, I think, right?
If we can, yeah.
Can Annie get through? There we go.
gonna do this.
Anybody?
We can hear you, Annie. Go ahead.
We have a motion?
Okay, it's actually Paul.
Yeah,
Here he
for
is.
some reason I can't get my phone to unmute, and I don't know what that's about. But I recall that the Town Hall Capital Reserve Fund had, before we added $50,000 to it this year, had $200,000 in it. And I wonder, like, if that's accurate.
Didn't that go towards building the safety complex? We had one fund that was for all the town offices. Town hall was one of them, and then that went towards the safety complex, right? Or are you thinking
This
since then?
is much more recent than that is. And I recall that there was a discussion during the last deliberation to add $100,000 to that same fund, and it was reduced to $50,000. And I think if you check back, you'll find that that fund very well might have $250,000 in it.
Can I speak to that?
Yep.
Okay. The renovating town hall capital reserve fund has only had one deposit to principal of $50,000. And as of the end of April, I haven't done May yet. As of the end of April, it has $51,863.
Right, there's only one.
You would have a town office building fund that's not town hall, but a building fund.
So the
That's
other
that what he
one,
means?
The Town Buildings Capital Reserve Fund.
Mhm.
Town Buildings Capital Reserve Fund at the end of April had $282,618.
That's it.
And that can go for any building.
Okay, thank you.
That one can be used for any town building. The renovating town hall can only be used for renovating town hall.
Mr. Tappan, would you also tell us how much is supposed to be put in the next fiscal year, please, as well?
Oh, yes. I don't have that spreadsheet in front of me. Just a minute. No money is being added to the renovating town hall capital reserve fund. In the past, there have been recommendations to add money to that, but there hasn't been. Town buildings, I'm quite sure is at 100,000 is the new addition.
Yep, that is correct.
Just a minute. I'm shuffling spreadsheets.
So really, when July 1st comes around, there should be about 380 some odd thousand in there.
Yeah, the amount that's going to be added this coming fiscal year, which starts a month from now, to the Town Buildings Capital Reserve Fund is $104,500. The extra $4,500 is from that money that came from the New Hampshire Preservation Alliance, which was the grant toward the parish house assessment.
Yep. So really, in those two funds, there's like 430 some odd thousand as of maybe sometime in July. Possibly.
Correct.
Yeah. So pretty close to $500,000.
Yes,
So
but-
you're saying that, sorry.
Sorry, yes, but please remember that we tap into that money through the course of the year when
Yes, I understand that.
things in all the buildings, the transfer station, the public safety
Yep.
complex.
No, definitely.
And
I'm
the
not
public
saying-
safety complex, it's getting
Needs
old
work.
and
Yeah.
it's gonna need some work.
Well, I'm not proposing to do the town hall renovation out of that whole thing, so that's not where I was going with that, but it is considerable amount of cash, but yes. But I think the board needs to commit in terms of what it wants to pursue. And I think if the board wants to pursue having it renovated a little bit for 12 people, or commits in the long term that it wants to be renovated for a whole bunch of people, completely renovated, I think that's something that needs to be taken into consideration when you ask the THRC or whatever we're called now to do these assessments. So we need to know what the scope of our work is. We do lots of good work, but we need to know what the scope is.
So did you have but somewhere in this plan, I think you had a recommendation, did you not?
Oh, we have lots of recommendations.
Well, that's good. Why don't you give us, what's your one recommendation then, if that's how many it is for the
Well, I
the
think,
town hall? Which one did you select?
well, in terms of what to do with the town hall,
Yeah,
we gave you three options.
I know.
The one that I think we should pursue is the total renovation of this particular structure. That's the one that I think we should pursue. It needs help, the floor, even if we do what we need to do so 12 people can meet there, that still doesn't fix the floor. And that's the biggest issue, one of the biggest issues. It needs all of its updated utility systems to be done. So that particular structure needs some assistance and some help. So that's where I am.
For what? So what are we going to use? I think that's the thing. So we have to have a reason and a purpose for what the town hall is for, because we know we have a need for town office buildings. We don't know for sure, unless we could talk about the challenges at the safety complex, because I was just there the other day, and we have a lot of things that need to be repaired and fixed. And also, in order to have retaining, we need to start thinking about things like the fact that our select board meetings are held next to where people are trying to sleep for the fire department. So, we have some issues that we can talk about. So I just think we have to know, we can't just because it's there doesn't mean we fix it first. I think we have to think about what order these things go in and why. So first you hit the needs of the town, and then you hit the wants. There's nothing I'd love better than to have that town hall renovated. I have a million things I'd love to be able to do there. I think that having a big space like that would be absolutely fabulous, and I could write pages of ideas. So it's not that I don't understand and I don't appreciate and very much want to renovate it. I just can't ask for money all the time.
Well, the thing is, I think the board needs to strategize, because the THRC and the town center committee has brought two proposals to the town. They've both been rejected. The first one got, 40 some odd %. The next one you've got less. So I think if you can take something from that, is the the voter doesn't want to spend too much money. So that's why we came up with these staged over 8 to 9 years. And I think if we start saving for this particular office building in years 8 or 9 or whatever it is, I think that's something that they might buy into or, can support. And I think we need to get some of this preliminary stuff out of the way. And I guess I will disagree with you. I think the town office, the town hall is not necessarily a want. I think it's a need. I think we need to support that particular structure. And Mr. Brown's comments in terms of it's been unoccupied for 6 months, and it's starting to fall apart as it is. So if we wait, another, 5-6 years or whatever it is, it's going to be in worse shape. So I'm going to disagree with you, and I told you that before you got elected.
Oh,
I will disagree with you sometimes.
That's fine.
But I think that is necessarily a need. It's not a want. And I think we need to commit to that particular structure. It's 174 years old. And I don't want it to fall down on my watch. And I don't think either of you two want it to happen as well. So,
but I just want to make sure that we're not coming to the town with expense after expense, and we haven't thought about it in a strategic way.
Well, that's why it comes back to Mr. Brown's thing that he tried to bring up a little bit in terms of 4B. It comes back to the CIFP. What are we going to commit to, and how are we going to pay for it? That particular tool is going to help us work through that particular proposal. We can't do these things in, little sections. We have to think about the grand plan, whatever it happens to be.
Right.
When we presented the things for the Town Center Vision Committee, that's what people wanted to hear. You say, okay, I understand what you want to do, but when's the other shoe going to drop? We need to tell them the whole plan to get all these particular things accomplished. And
I agree.
maybe they buy into it, maybe they don't. Maybe they support it, maybe they don't. But I think we need to come up with that particular plan. And I think the CIFP, or whatever we call it, is a tool that we can use to do that, because, money is tight. People are still feeling the effects. And I think there's some of these things that we can get out of the way in terms of the library, renovating the town hall, maybe the parking lot and stuff. I think that's some things that we can do in an incremental basis to get to that large nut at, year 8 or 9. Because we're talking about millions of dollars there. So.
Right, and I think if we know that that's the goal down the road, then while we're developing the other things, we're making choices based on, okay, I'm not gonna go put the septic right where I'm planning later on to put a parking lot. And so that's why I've been asking, just what are the steps for the whole plan so that we can do the piece of the plan and then we can improve them as we go, but we haven't made mistakes on the way.
Yeah.
And I agree 100%. I would love to get all of that. I'd love to get all that stuff taken care of, and then we can put a, new office building as a bond or something with some savings down the road. That's fine. We just need to know what all those things are,
Yep.
and then we can do them.
Yep. But that requires us to commit to those particular plans, whatever that happens to be.
Right.
And that's that. And I mentioned earlier, I had to control my temper because I'm getting so frustrated with this whole thing. It seems like to me, and this is just me, we keep going around in a circle, around and around and around, and we don't commit to anything.
Right. I
I'm
want to
tired of-
commit to it.
I'm
Right.
sorry, I'm not done. And I'm
No.
tired of doing these things and wasting my energy when we don't get anything done. And
Mhm.
that's where my temper is coming in, because I've been here before. I've been around in this circle, the mulberry bush, around the mulberry bush too many times, and I'm getting so frustrated. This board needs to decide what it's doing and give the committees that are working on it, the library trustees and everything, a way to move forward. We cannot keep doing this. We need to make some decisions.
I would have happily said yes to those things before. The town hall renovation committee is where I learned we have all these other big problems, so that I learned that we need to do that. So my question is, can we go ahead, do the library and the town hall and take care of all that and have that plan and then do the building later? I'm fine with that. I'm ready to say yes. I just can't, every time I've asked that question, I feel like I get, no, well, but we have to look into this and look into that. So if we can vote and make that happen and the town has said yes already, great. I just need to know where the money's coming from and what the plan is.
Well, I think in terms of the town hall, we've got some money there, but I think you need to set somebody to determine what it is, how much it's going to cost. We kind of have an idea of how much it's going to cost. And then we go back to the voters. So let's say, we've got the 430,000, those two funds. Maybe we ask the voters for, 150,000 or whatever it is. We also have to look at what else is coming out of those two funds, specifically the town buildings fund, because we can't shortchange whatever those things are that already been planned to come out of there.
But we also have to ask for money for the library. Don't we need a few $100,000 more for that as well?
No.
I
As far
thought
as
that
I
we
know,
had,
no. There's 600,000 that is committed for that particular thing. That's my understanding. The remaining money,
think,
I believe they're going to do fundraising. So
Katrinka has something to say.
sure.
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to say that, yes, we have approximately 600,000 on hand, and the budget is more like 800,000, which is why we're doing it in stages and hopefully moving ahead. And we do plan to fundraise the additional amount.
Okay, great.
Just, yeah, clarification. We don't,
Thank you. That helps a lot. So we're not asking for money there and other places. Great. So what can we accomplish right now? Can we say that we want to go forward with the library and the town hall and have those two projects work together and just get started? What can we do?
Well, I would like us to commit to, and I haven't heard from Mr. Brown, but I would like us to commit to renovating the town hall and charge the THRC with looking at what renovating the town hall, replacing the septic system and replacing the well, in addition to the library, what are those particular issues, and have them bring that back to us in terms of what we need to be looking at. So that's what I'd like us to commit to.
Mr. Brown, what do you think?
I think let's do it. Let's go for it. If that's the direction that's the path we need to follow to get to where we want to go, let's do it. I said it before. I fully support it. I'm just, I think I'm as frustrated as Scott is. I probably not as.
No, you're not.
as he
No
is.
way. No way. No way.
Okay, well, don't go.
I'm kidding,
Don't
Mr.
go
Brown.
estimating other people's feelings.
No.
Scott. You
I'm
get
just kidding,
disappointed
Mr.
by it.
Brown. I was just kidding.
I know you were. So was I. I'm I truly am on your side. I want to get this going. I want to get the library back on track so we see the end of it, okay? This is what's got to be done. This is when it's going to be done.
So,
And then we need to put our own milestones in place for what we're going to do.
Yep.
Let me just say one thing.
And then Rossi.
Last week, yeah, or two things. Last week, I went over to Madbury and I visited with them for just a few minutes to make an appointment, but then I also looked at their buildings. And their buildings, which are standard New Hampshire clapboard, white and black, but they've done the interiors very, very, very well.
Mhm.
But it's a beautiful little complex. I mean,
Yep.
it's a beautiful little complex. It's not fancy or whatever, but they have the meeting room adjacent to their 3 offices there. And of course, the library they just finished recently, actually. But
Yep.
it truly is a very nice little complex. I was very, very impressed with it. And I would, if nobody's paid attention to it, I would suggest you just go over there and take a look. It's really quite nice, and I doubt that it was too expensive. I'm not saying let's do that to all our buildings. I'm simply saying there is a way of taking the town hall, the museum, whatever, and making a little village out of it, if you would, for lack of a better word, with the standard white with the black trim. And it looks, let me tell you, it looks really, really good. It was impressive. I would like, I want Lee to look good. I want it to be functional and cost effective at the same time. I have all the faith in the world that the committee can do that. We're just not agreeing on how we get there from here. And then, of course, the library has some of its own problems. I'd like to solve the problems for the library, make that the keystone building for the plan.
Yep.
That's our starting point for the plan. Now, what do we do next? What do we do next? What do we do next?
Yep.
So that, I support you 100%. I truly do. Might not sound like it, but I do.
just an FYI, their meeting room has the same problem our public safety facility has. When it rains, it leaks in through the walls and the windows. So,
Which one's that? The meeting room?
yeah, the meeting room.
Yeah, well, I'm
Yep.
going to see it next week. So,
Well, hopefully it's not raining. You won't get wet, Mr. Brown.
okay.
So,
Karen
trying to say
Rossi
something
has
for a
her
while.
hand up.
So, thank you. So in your plan moving forward, does that mean the library can continue moving forward? Because we've been trying to work together to get that going. Does that mean that they can continue forward with their addition and while the select board and the new committee figures out what you're going to do with the town hall?
well, I think,
Because
Based
they're
on-
not being held, they're not holding up your project.
based on what we just said, you need to have whatever those particular issues are from the THRC in terms of doing all those particular projects in that same area. So I'm not necessarily thinking it's going to hold it up for, months and years, but maybe, a few weeks or something like that. Because the committee would have to come back and say, okay, these are the issues you need to deal with. So
But they're-
when their firm looks at their particular site, they need to take those things into consideration. So,
That's
But-
fine.
But the library addition doesn't have any of, those are all issues if you remodel, expand or whatever to the town hall. The library addition doesn't cause any of those things to happen. So shouldn't they be allowed to continue forward?
not if we're committing to renovating the town hall and changing the parking lot and the well and the septic system, that will affect the library.
But that's gonna hold up the library project.
No, I wouldn't think so.
Yeah.
As long as their contractor takes those particular issues into consideration when they're working on designing the particular library. So for instance, like they're gonna have to understand that there's a new well coming from a different direction. They have to incorporate that into their planning. The same thing with the septic system. And in terms of any drainage issues from parking lots and stuff. So as long as they take those things into consideration, they should be fine.
Yeah,
No,
they're
no.
gonna have their own drainage issues with the addition.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they will.
So we can still trudge forward with the Conservation Commission and the zoning board and all that. the
Yes,
library.
yes,
Okay.
yes. I'm not
Okay.
I'm not proposing that gets delayed at all.
Okay,
Just that their contractor, whoever that is, North Point or whoever,
Okay,
take those things into consideration when the THRC comes back and says, these are the issues you need to be concerned with.
okay,
And then moving forward, they just need to take those into consideration. So as long as they say, you know, okay, the well's coming from a different direction, we're actually putting in a septic system, and there's going to be parking out here. So
Okay.
that's my opinion. I'm not an engineer. I wish Mr. Jeans was here because he could talk to this particular issue better than I, but Mr. Tapping can maybe talk to it too. But I think that's what I'm thinking.
okay. Thank you. I just wanted to know to help guide them which process. Okay, thank you.
John, you had your hand raised?
Yes, I did. You cannot look at the drainage issues of the library building or library addition by itself.
Right.
And arrive at a good drainage plan for the town center.
Mm,
The architect for the library pointed that out. He said, sometimes you work with a civil engineer. That seems to be a good step as well. Most of this has to do with access, parking, utilities, water, waste. That's all within the realm of a civil engineer. I know that the town is someone that you would like to work with, and I would suggest engaging them to look at how to do it in one fell swoop. So you cannot, if you want to arrive at a good design, you cannot hire North Point to do a design just for the library addition. The architect for the library pointed that out, and they were not trying to get more work for themselves. They were pointing us toward somebody else.
That's why last time we met, I said I wanted to get 3 different civil engineering plans or bids in to talk about what we could do as a group. And I thought that's where we're going. So I'm confused. I feel like
No,
I'm getting whiplash from which direction we're going in.
in order to get reasonable results from those civil engineers, you need to be able to give them a good idea of what it is you want.
Which is why we were talking about what you would do in the next few weeks, getting that plan together.
Yes. So that I'm in favor of, is that the THRC, or whatever you want to call it, for the next couple of weeks, comes back with, here's what you need to decide, and here's how long it would take to decide it, in order to be able to go out to a civil engineering firm to get the whole design for the site. Any design that you do for the library by itself, as if it was in its own little bubble, ignoring the runoff from the parking lot and the other buildings, is not going to be an adequate design. And then when you go to modify the parking lot or the other buildings, you're going to mess up what you've already done for the library.
Which is when I've asked all these questions in the past, this is what I've heard, and this is why I keep saying I think we need to have the plan.
Do we agree the next step is to get a civil engineering firm out here to look at all these?
No.
No,
No?
no.
What is it? What is the next step then, John?
Can we
Sure,
hear from Ms.
John.
Gazowski?
If you have a lot of money to spend on high-priced engineers, then you can call the civil engineer out, hire them, and they will start asking questions, and you will run around trying to find the answers. If you don't have a pile of money, the smart way to do it is you figure out, you go as far as you can in some reasonable amount of time, answering those questions yourself, because you know what the questions are. I mean, one of the obvious questions is when you talk about a parking lot that would serve the new use for the town hall, how many parking spaces do you need? That's not a question for the civil engineer. I mean, the civil engineer can tell you what code may require, but I can do that too. But the real question is, how much of the planning for the future do you want to do?
Let me hear from Ms. Kozowski.
Yes, after the last select board meeting, when one of the tasks that we had was to compare the various parts of the civil engineering proposals, I met with Karen Rossi and we went over those lists and we came up with a list. And right now we still need to get some more information from the two firms that we have already contacted, and perhaps a third one, which might be Underwood, because they have been involved in the past with the town center project. So at this point, even though it will take more time, I think it's one of the things that needs to happen as far as civil engineering goes for the project.
Okay, thank you.
So can to my fellow select board members, can we take this in increments? I would like to move that the select board pursue the renovation of the town hall and charge the THRC with coming up within the next 2 weeks or so, what needs to be considered in terms of moving those particular projects forward. The two projects being the renovation of the town hall, the library, and also the associated utilities, being the well and the septic system.
Great. I like that idea.
Do I have a second?
I second that. Is that a motion? Sure, I'll second that.
I moved. I believe I
Okay.
moved.
Great, you were seconded.
See, I'm still, I'm not fully into that one, but okay. You got a second, motion passes.
No.
We'll do a roll call vote.
No.
Select
Discussion.
person Casper.
Mr. Bugby, did you want a discussion or do we want to just vote?
I
Look,
don't know.
what
I
you
don't know
said,
either.
Scott, just repeat what you said. You said you want the select board, to make a decision on the town hall. Is that correct?
Yep. No, I'm not having problems with that, Mr. Brown. I'm having problems with process.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand what the THRC, I thought you were, if you would, you've already come up with options for the town hall. So
No.
are we gonna just select off of the options? I mean,
No,
we
no.
just need a board meeting for that, don't we?
No, my motion includes us committing to the renovation of the town hall and charging the THRC with determining what the issues are that need to be considered with doing the renovating of the town hall, the library, its renovation and expansion, and the moving of the new well and the septic system. That's what I'm moving for.
And I seconded that.
Yes. So
Okay.
the next thing is discussion. If there's no discussion, then you can do a roll call vote.
Fine, I thought we just had discussion, but is there any more discussion?
I think so.
Roll call vote. Select person Casper,
Yes.
Selectman Bugby.
What if I said no?
I'd be so confused right
It's your
now.
choice. That's your choice.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yes.
Okay, I got it. Okay. Selectman Brown, yes.
Yes.
Motion passes.
I would also further, I would also further like to move that for any town project going forward, that particular project go through the same process that any individual property owner in the town of Lee would have to go through to meet the zoning and our planning board requirements.
I think that's fair. It costs us more money, but it means we do it better and it means we're doing what we're asking everyone else to do.
Okay, put that in
Oh,
a.
Sorry, did you want me to second that?
No, it's all right. Put that in a motion language, what you want, Scott. You
I
want.
Thought I just did.
I apologize. I should have seconded
You want a
it.
motion for full compliance with local zoning, et cetera, irregardless as to whether it's a town project or just a ongoing regular project, whatever.
Well, the ongoing regular project is already covered by the zoning laws, so it would be any town project would need to be covering those same particular regulations.
And I will second that motion.
I think we're totally confusing Denise. She's holding her head.
She looks a little sad. Overwhelmed, confused. Which one, Denise?
I still don't know. I still
But all of the
don't know where we are on getting a library, but okay.
Getting closer and
We're
closer.
still going around, Okay, fine.
We're moving very slowly.
We've corrected the zoning issue then, and.
No, you haven't had a discussion or vote yet.
Okay. All right. The next one though really is the THRC recommended.
Oh,
Do we just want to vote on that one and then we'll do that one?
There's no discussion. We need a roll call vote.
Need a roll call vote.
Yep,
Okay.
if there's no discussion.
Select person Casper,
Yes.
Selectman Bugby,
Yes.
Selectman Brown. Yes.
Now we can do the next one.
So we have the THRC recommended CIFP, accept or not accept.
I
No,
think there's, oh,
I assume the CIFP is the new spreadsheet planning tool. Is that what that is?
Yes. It probably needs a different name, but
yes,
yes.
please name it something else because it's confusing everyone and they think it's one thing and it's not. So we should change
Yes. So how about if we also charge the THRC to come up with a new name for the CIFP so it's not so confusing?
Mr. Tappan had something to say. Did you not anymore?
I was just agreeing that it does need a new name. And to point out that some people have focused on it being a plan. And yes, because it has entries that have been made in the spreadsheet, it is in effect a plan. But at this point, it is just a draft plan.
And a
So
tool.
what you're really voting on is the use of the planning tool, not the current contents of it.
Yes. And Mr. Tappan, would you fill us in? Also, you've had meetings with the different department heads about this particular tool, correct?
Yes, the town administrator organized a Zoom meeting with the department heads where I could go through a presentation of it and we could spend a little bit more time sharing screens of the spreadsheet and showing the features of it. Also, since then, since it's been shown to the board, to department heads, there have been recommendations for improvements to it. 3 of those have been incorporated so far. I mentioned earlier that it now provides a total of all the current cost estimates. You can also total any subset of the funds. Chairman Brown asked about how do we know how good these cost estimates are? So there is now a place to enter the estimate date, the estimate quality. Currently, I have 5 grades of estimate quality that range from grades A through E. A is where you have competitive bids, down to E, where it's just a plain guess. And there's also a place for a link in the spreadsheet to supporting documents. Those inputs of estimate date, estimate quality, then result in creating color codes for the 5 levels of estimate quality and color codes for the age of the cost estimate. So you can very quickly see as you look through the rows for any particular fund, what are those estimates that are perhaps weak or old. And then now that that has been incorporated, I now have a better feature for a better way of doing the feature that Selectman Bugby had asked about, which is an easy way to roll it over to the next year. It can now be rolled over to the next year just by entering the new year and entering the new starting balances for each fund. And all of the previous cost estimates are now increased by the compounded value of the annual cost increase. So those all automatically update. And of course, those ages all automatically update. So the cost estimates that were 2 years old last year are now 3 years old, and the color codes change and so forth.
Wow.
So those are the improvements to the tool. And if there's questions, I can answer them.
John, you're the father of this little darling, aren't you?
Yes.
His little baby.
So you are the owner of the code. You are the knowledge base. You're all of those. You're all of those things. And my only concern, honestly, I think it's a great tool, truly. And I'm just really amazed of what you've developed here. I think it's going to be good for us, but I'm concerned about what happens if something happens to you, and how we're able to maintain the program, because I believe we're going to fully rely on this program to forecast the future for us. And so that's my concern. What can we do? And obviously it's not going to be done in a day, but what can be done to at least document some of the basics of it and whatever, so we have something to go to.
I have started writing a notes page or a README page. So features like I just described, how it would be rolled over to a new year. So that's written out. It probably needs to be written out with maybe some more words to explain that. And I think the initial use for it, what I would recommend is that initially I function as the data entry clerk to enter the data into it. And as we're doing that, I think I need to be writing additional documentation explaining how to use it. It will also be that more of the town staff, department heads, town administrator will become more familiar with seeing how it works.
Is it patented, John?
No,
Copyrighted?
no,
There's
it's just Excel. All it is Excel.
it's in Excel. Certainly there is my intellectual property in it, which I have made no claim to. One of the reasons why I think I should be involved in the early use of it is that there certainly can be things in there that are obvious to me how they work, because there are things that I've put in spreadsheets that I've been writing for years.
Yeah.
And they may not be obvious to someone else. And so when someone asks a question, that may trigger me to realize, oh, I need to explain that. I mean, it's already come up with my own convention for spreadsheets that I never expect anybody else to use. I put all the user inputs in blue. That's my convention. So that when I go back to the spreadsheet 2 years later, I know how I intended to use it and I can just pick it up again.
Okay, how about security wise, so we don't have somebody with a fob that can come in and just copy it over to whatever. It's got those kinds of protections in it?
That has to be just in how we would protect, I think, any other file that the town uses.
Okay.
And how we do backup copies.
Yeah.
Okay.
Plus it's a governmental record, Mr. Brown. So if somebody wants a copy of it, we need to provide it. So.
It'd be smart to grab it and use it for themselves.
Well, just don't bring it over to Madbury, because Madbury then will use it. So.
Okay, anyway, thank you, John.
I like it.
So I move that the select board accept what is currently called the CIFP as a tool, not necessarily the content in it, but as a tool for funding and planning out capital projects.
I second that.
Any
Good.
discussion?
Yep. Okay, roll call vote. Select person Casper.
Yes.
Select person Bugby.
Yes.
Select person Brown. Yes. Thank you, John.
I get an upgrade. Now I'm a person.
Now,
You're welcome. It rooms up.
don't push it, Scott.
I'm going to have to come to your house, Mr. Brown, and have some libations later. How about that?
You can come on by anytime.
You guys were falling off the path here.
No,
Yep.
no problem, no problem at all. I'd love to have you. So let's see, where are we? Library, let's see, THRC charge, okay. Have you perhaps drafted a suggested charge?
No, we haven't. I think that needs to be determined how we're moving forward. I think maybe we can wait until after the THRC comes back with their, what we need to consider.
Yeah,
But I think that's something the three of us need to consider in terms of how, or we might even not want them. But how that particular group moves forward, maybe with a different name, but definitely in terms of what we're going to charge them with. They're a very competent bunch of people, but we need to tell them the scope of the work. And I think they're willing to take on those particular things, but we need to tell them what it is that we want them to do. So,
okay, should we put that on the list for the next meeting?
I think you probably should.
Okay,
Oh, and just an FYI, I am not going to be attending the next meeting. I'm going to be in Oklahoma. So I don't think I can do it remotely because after the 12th, it has to be in person. So I will not be able to attend on the 14th.
But we should discuss that, and we should discuss that we don't actually want to have it so that you can't attend remotely. So I think we can talk about that.
Well, the
Question
government
is, are
says
you
you
busy?
can't.
well, I guess since you're gonna be on a
Yeah, they
business
definitely
trip, you
did say
might
that.
have dinners and everything else. So if I were you, I
I'm-
agree.
I'm in Oklahoma, Altus, Oklahoma. Do you know where that is,
I
Carrie?
do. Altus Air Force Base is
Oh,
there.
there's nothing there.
Oh, yes, there is.
So,
There's also,
Mr. Bugby-
there's also a good steak place there. You just gotta sniff around.
All right,
Okay.
so Mr. Bugby, there are things in place. The New Hampshire Municipal Association's talked very many times about the possibility of having the ability to continue to have people join remotely because there's going to be people that want to be, that can't always come to the meeting. So I do think that we can have
Oh.
you join us even if we're in person.
Yes, I can do it by phone, but you two need to be there in person.
Yes, that's fine.
Yes.
Right.
We can discuss that. So that'd be great. So that way, at least we don't lose your vote or lose your input.
Okay, if we move along, let's go to E. I don't see any sense looking at the next step on the library project right now. I think we've covered
Correct.
most of that. A swap shop update. I have a big yes next to it.
Do we have sufficient volunteers? Steve was gonna check into that, see if we can staff it.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
don't
does-
have an
is
answer.
Steve's on. If he wants to talk about it, if he can't, I can talk about what I know. Steve, are you available to come join us? Oh, there he is.
Yeah, I didn't know I was supposed to.
There
check
he
into
is,
that.
there he is.
We're putting you on the spot, sorry.
Yeah, I didn't know I was supposed to check into it, but I don't think there's enough volunteers currently as it sits right now to be able to open it when they want. I
Okay,
don't think they've had enough people reach out. I talked to one of the coordinators today and she's talking about meeting next week at Little River Park on one day at like 10 in the morning and then at 3 in the afternoon on the same day to.
so we'll just delay the opening until.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like I know today she tried to get people to sign up and she sat out in front of it with the doors open and in a sign up sheet and was trying to get people and all they did was pull up, ask if it was open and she said, no, but we need volunteers and they just hit the gas pedal and took off. So
Can-
they don't, they want to get rid of their stuff, but they don't want to volunteer. So that's what she's running into right now.
Can we put something in the e-crier that?
That's what
the-
she wants to do.
Yeah, in terms of looking for volunteers and say we don't have enough volunteers, and when we have enough volunteers, then we'll open the swap shop back up again? Can we put something in there like that?
Yeah, she wanted to put that there and on Neighborly and have a few places where she could say that.
Okay,
Do we have a number? What is enough volunteers? What are we looking for, do you
I
think?
think they
Depends on
need
the
2
hours.
people per shift at least.
I'm sorry?
Katrin would know better.
Well, 2 people per shift is really important, and I think it depends on how many hours. So some people used to do 4 hours. I think, we have to cover the number of hours. I think they were suggesting that they open at 8 and close at 5. That way they had time to wrap up and close things up. And, so I think you just look at the number of hours you have. You have 3 days, 8 to 5. And then if, let's say every person did 2-hour shifts, you needed 2, you could do the math from that. And then you have to have some people that can cover when people can't be there, so.
Any physical requirements, i.e. capable of lifting 25 pounds or whatever?
She asked me that question today and I said, I don't think so, because I know there's been people in there that couldn't meet any of the requirements that you would just stated.
Okay,
They
great.
pretty much just, they go and they do a little bit and sit in a chair and watch and talk and say yes or no to things. I know that she had mentioned, she brought a bin with her today and had said that they can't bring anything more than this one bin per week and then one large item to try to keep the volume down for a while. And
I think it's going to be significant.
Yeah, I think that was a great idea. That way you kind of tell people, like, you can't just bring everything out of your, you can't fill up your whole truck with everything from the swap shop. I think that's a good idea, just until it calms down.
Okay. Any more comments, questions?
So Steve, can you write something, or can the volunteer person, I'm not sure if I remember her name, but write
Sally
something for the
Fleming and
e-crier?
Mark.
I'm sorry?
Sally Fleming and Mark, I forgot Mark's last name.
All right. So if they can get some more volunteers, I'm even amenable to open it up for partials. If they've got enough people demand like 4 hours a day or something like that, I'm amenable to just open it up for a short period of time.
that's the way they did it when,
Okay.
because I think when I first started, it was only open 2 days a week and then they added a day. And then there was one day where it was only open a half a day. Pretty much Saturday was the one day it was always open.
Okay. So let's see if we can ease into it then. If they're having problems, if they've got some volunteers, see if they can just serve for a short period of time. So I think it's time.
Yes.
You okay
But
with
I
that,
think-
Steve? Steve, are you okay with that?
Yeah, as long as everything is all set.
Yep.
Okay.
And I got accosted on Memorial Day at the Memorial Day ceremony from somebody who said that Durham's opening up theirs. Why can't we open up ours? So I think we need to pursue this as much as we can.
They're actively working on it.
Okay, great, excellent.
Okay. Number 5, Julie Glover, Town Administrator.
I need to go back to the share screen to remind me what the dollar amount
Yes.
is that I'm looking for.
Thank you for sharing.
It's-
Yeah.
Otherwise-
$1,091.50.
No, I think it's 600 and.
Oh, the difference? Oh, okay.
Actually, it's $294.
There we go.
So you may recall when I came to the board to talk about the panic buttons, which the board approved, thank you, and it was for a set dollar amount. But when they came here, it was determined that we needed an additional 2. So I'm asking the board to approve an additional $294 from the contingency account to pay for these additional panic buttons.
Let's see where we are.
You'll have to wing it, Mr. Brown.
Want me to try?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah,
shoot,
go
my
ahead,
number.
go ahead, go
All right.
ahead.
I motion that we spend the additional $294 for the additional 2 panic buttons
From
from, darn, I forgot the name of the account.
contingency fund.
Contingency funds. Thank you.
Second,
Roll call.
discussion.
All in favor?
We
Roll
need a
call vote.
vote.
Roll call vote. Let's go. Motion passes. Let's go. Roll call vote.
All
Catherine,
right. Yes.
Selectman Bugby,
Yes,
Kill them.
yes.
Selectman Brown, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you. So the only other thing I was going to talk about, we just touched on it, was the advice from NHMA today that we should probably plan on having to do in-person meetings after June 11th. Emergency Order 12 has only been extended to June 11th. He could have extended it longer, but the governor chose not to do that. There is legislation pending that would allow municipalities to do virtual meetings even without an emergency order. But we don't know whether that's going to pass or not, even though an overwhelming number of municipalities want it to. And even if it does pass, that won't be until July. So just a heads up that we should probably plan on having our next select board meeting in person.
Yay.
So
No,
that's
So
June 13th,
June 14th,
14th,
So,
June
so
14th.
the 6-foot restriction is now gone as well as of the 14th?
It's my
12th?
understanding that all of the restrictions are gone.
Okay, all right. So I guess I would say that that needs to be conveyed, and I think you sent out the email already to all of the committees and commissions that they need to start planning
Yep.
to meet in person. So I assume at the same time, we're going to open up the PSC as well for meetings. I would hope. Those two go together, I would think.
So the zoning board had a meeting in this building.
Oh, okay.
And I understand that it was successful and went well. I don't know whether, so I think that they are going to try to do zoning board meetings and possibly planning board meetings here meaning 249 Calif Highway, in case people don't know where I am because of my completely blank wall behind me. And we had always planned on the commission's meeting here when they would start meeting in person again. So the only board committee commission to meet at the public safety complex is the select board. Unless you want to talk about meeting here. The only,
What's the space requirement?
I guess it depends on how many people show up at a meeting. Karen, can you talk a little bit about how you configured it and how many people you had?
Yes, we had 6 members, zoning board members at the table, room for 6, excuse me, we only had 5. And then I sat at a small table on the side and we had chairs for 20 people in the audience and it worked great. And as far as like, for me, for staff, it's so nice to be on the other side of my meeting room. So if I miss something or I need to get something or setting up, it was so nice. It was great. And the zoning board loved it, but they thought it was very nice, convenient. And if I needed something, I could go get it. It was fantastic.
So the only issue, if the board was even thinking about having the meetings here, is we don't currently have a camera set up, but we still have the tripod camera. We could talk about doing that. But in any
Why can't we
event,
use a computer like we're using now, have it set up so that if people can't join us in person, or maybe they have
Yep,
coronavirus, or who knows what, we could just have that.
I think we can still do that. In other words, let's assume that the emergency order goes away. Are we still allowed to have public, which I think we are. So we'd have to figure out how to do that.
We did that for the zoning board meeting last week. We had Zoom access as well. And it worked, we had to do a little configuring and you have to have one person so like Bill sat at my desk and monitored the Zoom part. And then I was in the actual meeting. So,
Okay, great.
Yeah.
I think that makes the most sense.
So we're not going back to the PSC for select board meetings?
But it's up to the board. I'm just throwing it out there that it's
I would propose that we go back there for select board meetings. The video stuff is all set up. And the thing is, for 20 people, sometimes we get way more than that and we can't turn people away. So I would suggest that we go to the PSC for a regular second floor Zoom meeting, second floor meetings for the select board.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that, Scott.
Can we have Ms. Kwiatkowski ask a question?
Sure.
Oh, you're
Wanted to
muted
say
now.
that the library trustees will meet at the library, although their next meeting will be still by Zoom. After that, we will meet at the library.
Is that meeting before June 11th?
Yes.
So does the board, what do you want to do about opening the public safety complex back up to everyone that wants to meet there?
Well, I think the time has come. I mean, why not? We need to, well, let's start using the meeting room again.
Yeah. Did the Chiefs, I don't know, Chief Dronsfield was there. Well, there he is. And Chief Nemeth, Chief Nemeth was there at some point, I thought, but maybe not. Any concerns, Chief?
No, nope. I'm good with it.
All right. So I would propose that we open the PSC back up for meetings.
Second,
Aye.
Aye. Mr.
No.
Brown, do you vote? Aye.
it's the right thing to do. It's the right
Motion
thing.
passes.
Okay,
Nobody seconded your motion.
Can I ask a question?
Yep.
Does this board doesn't care if the planning board and the zoning board meets at our new building, do they? 249?
Wherever you feel most
You're
comfortable.
happy.
Okay, thank you.
Because remember, Karen, you told us earlier, we can't tell them what to do, so go ahead and do it.
Yeah,
Correct, but you control the buildings.
Is something wrong with our house, Karen?
It's just so, and this frees up for like the fire department and I conflict on Thursday night. It's just so nice to be able to just go next door and get something if I need it or a question about it or something.
Perfectly fine.
Thank you.
that's all I had.
I think it would be good to check in with Chief Nemeth too. I know that they've had to rearrange the building recently and maybe just make sure he's all set for us to meet there. Maybe we could just verify in the next 2 weeks and then, yeah, no, I guess we have to have it there. So yeah, we have to ask right away.
Bill Stevens will know, and what's the young lady's name, first name? To get the hall ready, etc.
Yeah, I just know we had to have people actually sleep in the same room. So you want to make sure that they have a place to be. I just toured it last week.
Yeah, I'll check with Chief Nemeth.
So we're down to number 6. This is a consent agenda. Motion to accept the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Wait a minute, I got
Go
multiple.
ahead, that's fine, Scott.
Did you say, who said second? Okay. Roll call vote. Select person Casper.
I just had a quick question before. We have a quick discussion about that one?
Okay.
Great.
I started to throw it off. I just was trying to understand what it was talking about with the insurance, and it was just covering, it's just basically moving it forward from what it was in the past to now, it's just another year rollover. Is that correct?
The FSA, is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, I was just wondering why we didn't have the ability for people to put money in the health savings if they wanted to. Like I just ran through it and I wasn't.
It's just a renewal.
Right. So
Because we don't have deductible plans. So our employees don't really need to have an HSA.
oh, there's no deductible.
HSAs are tied to high deductible plans.
And Julie, there's a small fee associated for them to manage that, correct?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, so
Got
that's really what it is. And there's only how many people, 6, 7 that use it?
6 or 7, yep.
Okay. All right. I just wanted to understand because I have never seen it before. So, okay, great. Happy to vote. Then.
Motion to accept consent agenda, Selectman Bugby.
Yes.
Thank you. Motion passes.
All yes too.
Yes.
They actually all vote, okay.
Any miscellaneous unfinished business?
I
Chief
think
Nemeth just
Scott
joined.
Nemeth's here if you want to ask him about using the building.
Okay. I don't see him.
Yeah.
He was just here.
Nemeth.
There he's
There he is.
I'm here.
Great.
So Chief, we're looking at starting to use the meeting room in the public safety complex for the next meeting. I think you've seen the piece of the bulletin that Julie has sent out, et cetera, saying they've removed the restrictions and so on. Do you have any issues with that?
No, I mean, at the beginning of all this, my concern was our employees, but now we're almost all vaccinated. So I think we're fine now.
Okay,
Right.
great. Thank you very much.
Yep.
All right, so with the next meeting, we all agree the next meeting is going to be at the Public Safety Complex, second floor. Scott, you'll be in town or not? You don't know yet.
No, I'm gonna be in Altus, Oklahoma.
Okay, all right. We'll talk to you on the phone. Anyway.
Great.
Okay, we're gonna enter into non-public session per New Hampshire RSA 91-A:3, Roman numeral 2, paren A, X2, N, paren C, roll call vote required.
Second,
Select person Casper,
Yes.
Selectman Bugby,
yes.
there we are. Selectman Brown, yes.
Motion passed.
So,
Good night. Is the host going to delete us?
yeah, for anyone that's still in the meeting,
The threat.
yeah,
So I move to seal the minutes from the non-public session.
I second that.
No discussion. Roll call vote.
Roll call vote, Selectman Bugby,
Yes.
select person Casper,
Yes.
Selectman Brown, yes.
Motion to
Meeting-
adjourn.
Meeting is adjourned. We just ran out of agenda.
good night.
Everyone.
Good night, everyone.